Never share your next move. Move in silence. Introduction. We live in a world that constantly urges us to broadcast our every thought, every plan, and every dream. Social media has created a culture where people are conditioned to announce their intentions before they are even formed into reality. The moment an idea sparks, many rush to share it, seeking validation, applause, or recognition before the first step of execution is taken. Yet history, wisdom, and experience all tell us the same truth. The most powerful moves are made in silence. Your next step, your deepest vision, and your most sacred plans lose strength when they are spoken too soon. What should be growing in the soil of your discipline becomes exposed to winds of doubt, envy, and interference. The call to move in silence is not about secrecy rooted in fear. It is about strategy born of wisdom. Silence is not emptiness, it is energy in its purest form. When you learn to withhold your next move, you are not denying yourself expression, you are granting yourself protection, you are giving your dream space to develop without interruption. Imagine planting a seed in the ground and digging it up every few days to show it to others. The seed never takes root because it has been disturbed before it has had the chance to grow. The same is true of your vision. Constantly revealing your plans keeps them fragile, dependent on the approval of others, and vulnerable to the sabotage of negativity. In silence, you preserve momentum. When you speak too quickly of what you intend to do, the mind begins to feel that the goal has already been accomplished. The energy that should fuel your progress leaks into conversations and explanations. By contrast, those who keep their intentions quiet build pressure like steam in a sealed container until the release is undeniable. Silence then becomes a form of power. It sharpens focus, nurtures discipline, and creates a foundation where action, not words, carries the weight. Consider the most influential leaders, visionaries, and creators throughout history. Their breakthroughs did not come from sharing every idea prematurely. They worked in the shadows, refining, shaping, and building until their results were ready to be revealed. When the world finally saw what they had accomplished, it appeared as though it had emerged fully formed. The power of that surprise, the strength of that unveiling, came from the discipline of restraint. Your greatest advantage is often the element of the unknown. What people cannot predict, they cannot prevent. What they do not see, they cannot weaken. Moving in silence does not mean isolation or mistrust of everyone. It means discernment. It means choosing carefully when to speak and when to hold your tongue. It means recognizing that not every friend, family member, or colleague is meant to carry the weight of your vision with you. Some will encourage you, but others will unknowingly or intentionally plant seeds of doubt. Protecting your vision is not about shutting others out completely. It is about guarding the sacredness of your next move until it is strong enough to stand on its own. This book is an invitation to reclaim your power through silence. It is a guide to shifting from a life of announcements to a life of action. Each chapter will explore the psychology, the strategy, and the spiritual wisdom behind moving in silence. It will challenge you to embrace stillness as a weapon, discipline as a shield, and results as your voice. In a culture that glorifies noise, distraction, and instant validation, silence will be your revolution. And as you journey through these pages, you will discover that the greatest victories are not shouted into existence. They are lived, embodied, and revealed only when the time is right. Chapter 1. The Noise of the World. The modern world is saturated with noise. Every second people are speaking, posting, announcing, and broadcasting. There is a race to be seen and heard, and in this race, many lose the very thing that matters most: their focus and their power. We have entered an age where silence is not only rare but often misunderstood. If you are quiet about your plans, people assume you lack ambition. If you withhold your next step, others may label you secretive or distrustful. Yet the truth is that silence is not a weakness. It is one of the strongest positions you can take in a culture addicted to noise. Consider how often people reveal their goals before they have even begun working toward them. Someone declares they will start a business, write a book, or change their life, and immediately they begin to share it with everyone they know. For a brief moment, they feel accomplished because they have spoken it aloud. They receive claps, encouragement, or even envy, and that instant rush of attention can trick the brain into believing the work has already been done. But what happens after the applause fades? The person still stands before the long road of execution, often with less drive than before because they have already experienced the feeling of recognition. By seeking validation too early, they unknowingly weaken the very dream they hope to strengthen. Noise does more than drain your motivation, it attracts interference. When you reveal your next move to too many people, you invite opinions, criticisms, and doubts. Some will question your ability, others will offer unsolicited advice that shifts your focus, and there are those who, whether consciously or unconsciously, will plant seeds of discouragement. Words such as "that will be hard," or "are you sure you can do that?" might not sound destructive at first, but repeated enough, they begin to erode confidence. What could have been a strong and steady pursuit now becomes clouded by hesitation. Beyond discouragement, there is another danger that noise brings: envy. Not everyone who hears of your intentions will be happy for you. Some may smile outwardly while harboring resentment inwardly. They may quietly hope for your failure, and in some cases may even act in ways to undermine you. Human nature has always carried the weight of envy, and it is amplified in a culture where people constantly compare themselves to others. When you announce your next move too soon, you invite energy into your space that was never meant to be there. The world has always rewarded those who understood the value of discretion. In ancient times, kings, generals, and warriors planned their strategies in silence, revealing nothing until the moment of action. To announce an intention prematurely would be to weaken the element of surprise, giving enemies an advantage. The same principle applies in modern life. When you reveal too much, you give others the ability to prepare against you, to criticize you, or to compete with you before you have even made your first step. Silence preserves your advantage. It allows you to operate from a position of strength, with clarity unshaken by the noise of external voices. But silence is more than a shield. It is also a tool for focus. When you do not have to explain your every move, you gain the mental space to refine your vision. Words carry energy, and each time you speak of what you plan to do, you release some of that energy outward. If you are constantly explaining yourself, you leave less energy for the actual work. Silence, by contrast, keeps energy contained. It allows your vision to build inside you like pressure within a vessel, creating momentum that can be directed fully into action. The noise of the world tempts you to believe that visibility equals progress. You see others posting their goals, their new ventures, their projects in progress, and you feel the urge to do the same. But what is often unseen is how many of those same people abandon their goals once the novelty wears off. Many of the loudest voices fall silent when the true test of perseverance begins. The quiet ones, on the other hand, are often the ones still moving steadily, silently, until one day they appear, with results that speak louder than years of talk ever could. Resisting the noise is not easy. It requires discipline to keep your vision guarded in a culture that pressures you to announce it. You will be tempted to share, not only for validation, but also because speaking feels like action. It gives the illusion of movement, but illusions cannot replace execution. What matters is not what you say you will do, but what you actually build, complete, and achieve. Every time you resist the urge to broadcast your intentions, you strengthen your discipline. And discipline is the foundation of success. There is also wisdom in understanding timing. Not every silence must last forever. There will be moments when speaking is necessary, when sharing your work inspires others, or when your plans require the input of those you trust. But those moments should be chosen with care, not given freely to anyone who asks. The world does not deserve access to your every step. Your vision is sacred, and only those proven worthy should be allowed to carry even a glimpse of it before it comes to life. As you reflect on the noise of the world, consider how much of it has shaped your own habits. How often have you shared your dreams before they were ready? How many times have you spoken of your goals only to find the excitement fading once the applause ended? And how many times have the words of others planted doubt that you would not have carried if you had remained silent? These questions are not meant to condemn, but to awaken. Awareness is the first step toward change. To move in silence, you must first recognize the traps of noise. The chapters ahead will guide you deeper into this practice. You will learn not only why silence is powerful, but how to embody it. You will see how silence strengthens your focus, protects your energy, and magnifies your results. You will discover that silence is not emptiness, but fullness. It is clarity, it is strategy, it is strength. The world may celebrate noise, but your transformation will be built in the quiet. And when you finally step forward, when you finally reveal what you have built in silence, the world will not be able to ignore it. Chapter 2. Seeds in the Dark. Every great transformation begins in silence, hidden from sight, and nurtured in conditions that most people overlook. A seed does not sprout the moment it touches the soil. It spends time buried, unseen, developing roots that anchor it deep enough to withstand the storms it will one day face. This hidden stage is not wasted time, but the most important period of preparation. The same principle applies to the moves you make in life. Just as a seed cannot survive if it is constantly dug up and exposed, your dreams cannot thrive if you reveal them before they are ready. They must first grow in the dark, where no one can see, before they rise toward the light. In the modern age, people often despise the unseen season. They want instant visibility, immediate recognition, and quick applause. But growth that is rushed rarely lasts. Just as a fruit picked before its time is sour and weak, a plan exposed too early loses its sweetness and strength. Silence is the soil where your vision matures. In silence, you can make mistakes, adjust, and refine without the pressure of outside eyes. You are free to learn without judgment, to stumble without spectators, and to rise again without explanation. These are privileges that disappear once you make your intentions public. When the world is watching, the freedom to grow privately is replaced by the burden of expectation. The seed buried in the dark teaches us patience. Nothing about its journey is hurried, yet its progress is unstoppable. Underground, it develops quietly, building a system strong enough to support what will come. If it could speak, the seed would not need to announce its plans. It simply grows until its presence can no longer be denied. When you choose to move in silence, you embrace the same wisdom. You allow your vision to deepen before it widens. You anchor yourself in discipline before you rise into visibility. And when the moment comes, your emergence is not a fragile sprout that can be crushed easily, but a strong stem ready to reach for the sky. Many people sabotage their own progress by craving validation too early. They plant the seed of a dream and rush to share it, expecting applause to speed up the process. But applause does not make roots grow. In fact, it often distracts from the very work that must be done underground. Validation is addictive, and once you taste it, you begin to seek it repeatedly, even at the expense of true progress. Instead of watering the seed with discipline, you water it with words, leaving it exposed to criticism, envy, and doubt. Soon the dream withers, not because it lacked potential, but because it was pulled out of the soil too soon. The season of silence is sacred because it allows you to protect the fragility of beginnings. Every new pursuit starts small, vulnerable to outside forces. If a storm passes while a tree is still a sapling, it may be broken. But if that same storm comes years later, when the tree has deep roots and strong branches, it can withstand the winds. This is why you must honor the dark season. It gives your dreams time to mature away from storms of negativity and interference. Silence shields your progress until you are strong enough to endure whatever may come. There is also a spiritual lesson in the seed's journey. Growth in the dark is not a punishment, but a preparation. Hidden seasons test your commitment. They reveal whether you truly desire the goal or only the recognition that comes with it. When no one is watching, will you still show up? When no one is applauding, will you still put in the work? These questions are answered in the silent stage. If your motivation fades when no one notices, then your dream is built on shallow soil. But if you can persist, if you can labor in the unseen, then your vision has roots that will carry it through seasons of drought and difficulty. Silence is not meant to deprive you of connection, but to refine the quality of it. Think of the farmer who plants seeds. He does not invite the whole village to come and watch the soil every day. He works quietly, tending to the ground, watering, protecting, and waiting. He knows that time will reveal what is hidden, and he has no need to prove it prematurely. Similarly, your silence is not a barrier between you and others. It is a boundary that preserves what is precious. You are not hiding because you are afraid. You are protecting because you are wise. The pressure of modern culture tells you to reveal everything as it happens. But the most profound transformations cannot be explained in the moment. They must be lived, endured, and allowed to unfold. Just as the seed cannot describe the mystery of its own growth underground, you may not be able to articulate your process while you are in it. And that is not weakness, it is wisdom. Silence grants you the space to let your progress speak when the time is right. Learning to honor the dark season requires humility. It means accepting that recognition will come later, not now. It means choosing process over praise, progress over applause. Many struggle with this because they fear being overlooked. They believe that if they are not constantly visible, they will be forgotten. But the truth is that real success cannot be forgotten. When your results finally emerge, they will speak louder than constant updates ever could. People may not see your work while you are underground, but they will not be able to ignore you once you rise. In your own journey, ask yourself, what seeds am I planting? And more importantly, am I giving them time to grow in silence? Or am I digging them up too soon to prove something to others? Reflect on how many dreams you may have abandoned because you sought validation instead of allowing them to develop in private. Recognize that nothing truly meaningful grows overnight. Even the tallest trees began as tiny seeds, unseen and unnoticed for a long time. The wisdom of the seed reminds us that silence is not emptiness, but preparation. The unseen stage is not a void, but a womb, where life forms and strength develops. Moving in silence means honoring that stage, protecting your vision until it is ready to face the world. When you finally emerge, you will do so with roots so deep that no storm can uproot you, and that is the power of seeds in the dark. They teach you that what grows in silence becomes unshakable in the light. Chapter 3. Energy is currency. Every day you wake up with a limited amount of energy. That energy is the invisible currency you spend on everything you think, say, and do. Just as money can either be invested wisely or wasted carelessly, so too can energy. Many people find themselves drained not because their goals are impossible, but because they have spent their energy on the wrong things, over-explaining, oversharing, and giving access to people who were never meant to carry their vision. Energy once spent cannot be reclaimed. That is why learning to move in silence is not only about protecting your ideas, but also about guarding your most valuable resource, your energy. Think of the times you have revealed a plan or shared your next move. The conversation begins with excitement, but soon you find yourself defending your choices, answering endless questions, or even absorbing skepticism from others. Hours later, you feel tired, not from working on the plan itself, but from justifying it to people who may not understand or even care. That exhaustion is not a coincidence. It is the cost of wasted energy. Every word you speak, every explanation you give, takes from the same reservoir you need to build, create, and execute. When you learn to preserve your energy by withholding unnecessary explanations, you discover a deeper well of focus and strength available for the work itself. Energy leaks are subtle but destructive. They appear when you seek validation from those who cannot see your vision. They appear when you overthink how others will respond. They appear when you allow yourself to be distracted by comparisons, envy, or criticism. Each leak seems small, but together they drain the reservoir that should have been fueling your progress. Silence is the practice of plugging those leaks. By choosing not to reveal everything, you prevent your energy from scattering in all directions. Instead, it remains concentrated, like a laser beam capable of cutting through obstacles with precision. Consider how the most disciplined people operate. They rarely announce every step of their journey. They understand that energy is most powerful when directed, not dispersed. A person who spends hours explaining their dreams to others often has little strength left to act on them. By contrast, the one who stays silent invests that same energy into action. Over time, the difference is undeniable. One has a trail of words, while the other has a trail of results. The currency of energy is also about the environments you choose. Some conversations leave you inspired, while others leave you depleted. Some people breathe life into you, while others quietly drain it. When you are careless with your energy, you allow anyone to withdraw from your account. But when you begin to value your energy as currency, you become more selective. You learn to ask, does this conversation add to my growth or subtract from it? Does this person invest in my vision or drain it? When you begin to guard your energy in this way, silence becomes a natural companion, because you no longer feel the need to share everything with everyone. You share only with those who deserve access. Moving in silence also means protecting your inner world from the constant demands of the outer world. Technology has made it easy for others to reach you at any time, to pull on your attention and to consume your mental space. Notifications, messages, and requests all demand a piece of your energy. Without boundaries, you become scattered, exhausted, and unfocused. Silence teaches you that not every call must be answered, not every message must be replied to immediately, and not every demand deserves your attention. Just as a wise investor does not spend money on every opportunity, a wise person does not spend energy on every distraction. There is a deeper truth about energy that often goes unrecognized. It is not just physical or mental, but spiritual. When you speak of your vision prematurely, you release not only mental focus, but also spiritual momentum. You place your dream in the energetic field of others, where it can be influenced, diluted, or resisted. Some may send encouragement, but others may send envy, doubt, or silent opposition. Whether you believe it or not, energy transfers through words, intentions, and even unspoken thoughts. Protecting your next move is therefore not superstition but wisdom. It is choosing to keep your spiritual currency intact until your dream is strong enough to stand in the open. Silence does not mean suppression. It does not mean bottling up your emotions or denying your need for connection. It means being intentional about where your energy flows. There is a difference between silence born of fear and silence born of wisdom. Fearful silence hides because it doubts its own worth. Wise silence waits because it knows its worth does not need validation. When you operate from the latter, you begin to see silence not as a restriction, but as a strategy that multiplies your energy. Energy is also tied to discipline. Every time you resist the temptation to speak prematurely, you exercise the muscle of restraint. That discipline builds strength in every area of your life. If you can control your words, you can control your habits. If you can control your habits, you can control your destiny. Silence, then, is more than the absence of speech. It is the training ground for mastery. Each moment of restraint preserves your energy for greater use, like saving money in a bank instead of spending it recklessly. Over time, the accumulation of preserved energy allows you to accomplish far more than those who scatter theirs daily. Ask yourself, where is your energy going? Are you investing it in your growth, your craft, and your discipline? Or are you spending it explaining yourself, defending your choices, and entertaining distractions? Reflect on how many dreams have failed, not because they lacked potential, but because their creators ran out of energy halfway through. They exhausted themselves talking instead of doing, seeking applause instead of building, giving explanations instead of results. When you begin to treat your energy as currency, you understand that every unnecessary word is a withdrawal, and every act of silence is a deposit. As you move forward, remember that silence is not empty. It is full of preserved energy waiting to be released at the right time. By guarding your energy, you not only protect your vision, but also amplify your capacity to achieve it. The world will always demand explanations, but you are not obligated to spend your currency on every request. Invest your energy where it multiplies, not where it diminishes. In silence, you will find that your power grows, and when the time comes to reveal what you have built, the energy you conserved will give your results a force that words could never achieve. Chapter 4: The Psychology of Silence. Silence is not just an outer practice, it is an inner transformation. To move in silence requires more than keeping your lips closed. It requires a shift in how you think about yourself, your goals, and the opinions of others. The psychology of silence is about mastering the mind, because the mind is often the loudest place of all. Even when you are not speaking aloud, the temptation to seek approval, to defend yourself, or to measure your progress against others can create internal noise that distracts you from your purpose. True silence is not only the absence of sound, but also the presence of clarity. From childhood, many people are conditioned to equate speaking with validation. You are encouraged to tell others what you are doing so they can affirm you, and over time you begin to believe that affirmation is necessary for progress. Silence feels uncomfortable because it seems to deny you recognition. The psychology of silence challenges this conditioning by teaching you to find validation within rather than seeking it outside. When you no longer rely on others to approve of your choices, you become free. You no longer need to broadcast your intentions because you have learned to trust your own vision. This shift is difficult because humans are wired for connection. The desire to be understood is natural, but it becomes dangerous when it turns into dependence. Oversharing is often a symptom of insecurity, a way to prove to others that you are doing something worthwhile, but in proving yourself, you drain yourself. Silence forces you to face the discomfort of being unseen, which ultimately strengthens your resilience. When you can withstand that discomfort, you become unshakable. The psychology of silence is about breaking the addiction to external validation and discovering that your worth does not rise or fall based on the opinions of others. Another dimension of silence is control over impulse. Many speak before they think, revealing plans or emotions in the heat of the moment. Later, they regret what they said, realizing that their words gave others power they did not deserve. Practicing silence trains you to pause, reflect, and choose your words with intention. It teaches patience, the ability to let thoughts settle before they become speech. This is a psychological discipline that extends beyond protecting your plans. It also improves your relationships, your leadership, and your decision-making. People who master silence often exude calm authority, because they do not feel the need to prove themselves with constant words. The mind often equates silence with weakness, but this is an illusion. In reality, silence shifts power back to you. When you do not reveal your thoughts, others cannot manipulate them. When you do not expose your plans, others cannot sabotage them. And when you do not rush to defend yourself, you discover that many conflicts resolve themselves without your effort. Psychologically, silence creates strength. By allowing you to observe more than you reveal, you become a student of people, noticing patterns, motives, and intentions that others miss because they are too busy talking. Silence transforms you from a participant in noise to a master of perception. At the same time, silence confronts the ego. The ego thrives on recognition. It wants to be praised, acknowledged, and admired. That is why silence feels like a threat. It denies the ego its favorite food. But when you can starve the ego of unnecessary attention, you begin to grow in ways that recognition could never provide. You learn to act not for applause but for alignment. Your moves become purer, motivated by purpose rather than performance. Psychologically, this is liberating because it frees you from the exhausting cycle of chasing approval. You begin to move in silence because your focus is no longer on being seen, but on being effective. The psychology of silence also reshapes your relationship with time. When you stop speaking prematurely about your plans, you create room for patience. You stop expecting instant recognition and instead learn to value process. You begin to trust that progress, though unseen, is still progress. This patience reduces anxiety because you are no longer measuring your worth against how quickly others notice you. You find peace in knowing that the quiet season is not a sign of failure, but a sign of growth. This mindset gives you endurance, allowing you to stay committed long after others have given up. Silence even impacts creativity. When you stop explaining yourself constantly, your mind becomes a fertile ground for new ideas. Words can sometimes trap you, locking your vision into a fixed shape too soon. Silence keeps the vision fluid, giving it space to evolve and expand. In psychology, this is known as incubation, the period when the unconscious mind continues to work on a problem without interference from the conscious mind. Silence provides the mental space for incubation to occur, leading to breakthroughs that would not have emerged in constant conversation. There is also a psychological advantage in how others perceive you when you practice silence. People who speak less are often regarded as more thoughtful, more mysterious, and more powerful. This is not about creating an image, but about allowing silence to do its natural work. When you do not reveal everything, others become curious. Curiosity creates respect, and respect creates influence. Leaders throughout history have used silence strategically, not as manipulation, but as a recognition that power often lies in what is withheld. To embrace the psychology of silence is to embrace trust. Trust in yourself, trust in your process, and trust in timing. It requires courage to move without constant reassurance, but that courage is exactly what strengthens you. Each time you resist the urge to overshare, you affirm your independence from external approval. Each time you pause before speaking, you increase your authority over your own mind. And each time you let silence hold space for your vision, you invest in a future where results speak louder than announcements. The journey to mastering silence is not about becoming mute or detached. It is about balance. It is about recognizing when words are necessary and when they are wasteful, when speech builds and when it drains. It is about retraining the mind to see silence not as emptiness but as strength. The psychology of silence transforms you from someone who constantly seeks to be heard into someone who commands attention without demanding it. That transformation is both subtle and profound, reshaping not only how others see you but how you see yourself. When you begin to live this way, you discover a calmness that the noisy world cannot touch. You move with clarity because you are no longer scattering your thoughts in every direction. You move with confidence because you no longer need others to confirm what you already know. And you move with power because your silence carries weight. This is the psychology of silence, the inner mastery that allows outer restraint. It is not simply about saying less, it is about becoming more. Chapter 5. The enemy of progress. One of the greatest enemies of progress is not failure itself, but the exposure of your intentions before they have matured. When you reveal your plans too early, you invite forces that work against you. These forces may come in the form of doubt, envy, resistance, or distraction. They are subtle, often disguised as concern, advice, or even encouragement, but their impact can derail your focus and weaken your resolve. To move in silence is to recognize that not everyone around you is aligned with your vision, and not every environment is safe for your dreams to grow. Doubt is often the first enemy to arrive when you share your next move. It can enter your life through others, but it also takes root within you. When people question your abilities, they rarely do it directly. Instead, they plant suggestions in the form of innocent questions. Are you sure that is realistic? Do you really have the time for that? What if it does not work out? These questions seem harmless, but they echo in the mind long after the conversation ends. Over time, they take shape as internal doubt, causing you to second-guess yourself. What once felt like a strong conviction begins to feel shaky, not because the dream has changed, but because your confidence has been interrupted. Envy is another enemy of progress, and it often hides behind polite smiles and surface-level support. Not everyone who hears about your vision will celebrate you sincerely. Some will clap, but in their hearts they resent the fact that you are daring to step into something greater. Envy may manifest as passive resistance, subtle discouragement, or even attempts to copy and compete with you. It does not always appear as open hostility, but it can still be destructive. When you move in silence, you give envy nothing to grasp. By the time others realize what you are doing, your progress is already too far along to be undone. Resistance often comes from people who love you. Family members, friends, or colleagues may project their fears onto you, believing they are protecting you. They caution you against risk, warn you of failure, and urge you to remain in the familiar. Their intentions may not be malicious, but their impact is the same. They pull you back from stepping fully into your potential. If you rely too heavily on their approval, you will find yourself shrinking to fit their expectations. Silence protects you from this form of resistance by allowing you to act before opinions have the chance to restrain you. Distraction is the most underestimated enemy of all. Sharing your plans creates conversations, and conversations create diversions. Instead of using your energy to build, you spend it explaining, debating, and justifying. Each conversation may feel meaningful in the moment, but collectively they steal the time and focus needed to bring your vision to life. Distraction does not always appear as something negative. Sometimes it looks like admiration or curiosity. People ask questions because they are interested, and you feel flattered, but the more you explain, the less you execute. Over time, your momentum slows, and the dream remains in conversation rather than in reality. These enemies of progress thrive in noise. They lose their power in silence. When you refuse to reveal your next move prematurely, you cut off their access. Doubt has no entry point, envy has no target, resistance has no foothold, and distraction has no material to work with. Silence shields your vision from unnecessary exposure and keeps your energy focused on what matters most. It creates an environment where your goals can grow without interference, protected until they are strong enough to stand in the open. The enemy of progress also exists within. It is the part of you that wants recognition before results, comfort before discipline, and applause before achievement. Oversharing satisfies that part temporarily, but it weakens your long-term growth. Silence forces you to confront your inner impatience. It denies you the immediate gratification of attention and teaches you the deeper satisfaction of persistence. By resisting the urge to share, you strengthen the muscle of self-control. Over time, this discipline becomes a shield that protects you, not only from external enemies, but also from your own impulses. The truth is that not everyone is meant to understand your path. Some people are unable to see beyond their own limitations, and if you invite them into your vision too early, they will interpret it through the lens of their fears. What feels expansive to you will feel impossible to them. They cannot carry the weight of your dream because it was never given to them. It was given to you. Expecting them to fully support it is unrealistic. Moving in silence means accepting this reality and choosing to protect your vision from misinterpretation. History is filled with examples of people who lost momentum because they spoke too soon. Writers who announced a book they never finished, entrepreneurs who declared a business that never launched, and dreamers who proclaimed change but never followed through. The pattern is common: exposure without execution. Each premature announcement attracts attention, but attention without results eventually erodes credibility. Silence, on the other hand, allows you to build credibility through action. When you reveal only after you have achieved, Your words are backed by evidence, and your influence grows naturally. To recognize the enemies of progress is not to live in fear, but to live with awareness. It is to understand that silence is a form of self-protection, not isolation. It is to see that your vision is precious, fragile in its early stages, and undeserving of careless exposure. Every time you resist the urge to share, you declare that your dream is too valuable to be placed in the hands of others before it is ready. You affirm that your progress will not be dictated by doubt, envy, resistance, or distraction, but by your discipline and commitment. Moving in silence does not mean you will never face opposition. Challenges will still come, obstacles will still appear, and setbacks will still test your resolve. But by guarding your vision during its most vulnerable stages, you ensure that when opposition does arrive, you are stronger, more prepared, and less dependent on external approval. Your silence becomes your armor, and your progress becomes your weapon. The enemies of progress may surround you, but they cannot touch what they cannot see. In your own life, reflect on the times when you revealed too much too soon. Ask yourself what was lost in those moments. Did doubt creep in where confidence once lived? Did envy create unnecessary tension in relationships? Did resistance from loved ones cause you to question your path? Did distraction slow your momentum? Now, consider how different the outcome might have been if you had chosen silence instead. Let those reflections guide you forward. Recognize that your vision deserves protection, your progress deserves focus, and your energy deserves preservation. Silence gives you all three. The enemy of progress thrives on exposure, but you are not obligated to feed it. You can choose to guard your next move, to nurture it quietly, and to allow it to grow until it is undeniable. In doing so, you declare that your progress will no longer be compromised by outside forces. You step into a new way of living where silence is not emptiness but strength, not weakness but wisdom, not suppression but strategy, and in that silence, your progress will flourish, unstoppable and unshaken by the noise around you. Chapter 6. Quiet Confidence. There is a kind of power that does not need to announce itself, a presence that speaks before any words are formed. This is the essence of quiet confidence. It is different from arrogance, which shouts loudly to mask insecurity. Quiet confidence is rooted in self-awareness, in the knowledge that you are enough without constant validation. It is the natural result of moving in silence. Because when you stop explaining, defending, and seeking applause, you cultivate a calm assurance that cannot be shaken by the noise of the world. Confidence has often been misunderstood as volume. People are taught to believe that the most confident person is the one who speaks the loudest, takes up the most space, or dominates the room. But true confidence has never required noise. It is the steady calm in the storm, the unshakable focus in chaos, the ability to walk into a room and know that your presence is enough without exaggeration. When you carry quiet confidence, people notice you, not because you demand their attention, but because your energy commands it. Quiet confidence begins with trust in yourself. When you believe in your abilities, you no longer feel pressured to convince others. You know what you are capable of, and you understand that time will reveal your results. This inner trust allows you to remain silent about your plans, because you do not need external affirmation to validate them. Every time you resist the urge to broadcast your intentions, you strengthen this trust. Over time, it becomes a natural posture. You move with certainty, not because others approve, but because you have learned to approve of yourself. This confidence is powerful because it is resilient. Loud confidence crumbles when challenged, because it depends on recognition from others. Quiet confidence thrives even in resistance, because it does not seek external fuel. It draws from an inner reservoir that cannot be taken away. When people doubt you, your confidence remains. When no one applauds, your confidence remains. When challenges arise, your confidence remains. It is built on foundation rather than appearance, and foundation cannot be shaken by temporary storms. To develop quiet confidence, you must detach from the need to prove yourself. Many waste energy trying to explain their worth to people who will never understand it. They seek validation from those who are unwilling or unable to give it. This pursuit drains their energy and leaves them frustrated. Quiet confidence does not chase recognition. It allows results to speak when the time is right. It understands that the people meant to notice will notice, and those who do not were never meant to matter. Another aspect of quiet confidence is humility. Silence and humility are closely connected because both require restraint. To remain silent when you could boast, to stay humble when you could brag, is a strength that few possess. It does not mean denying your accomplishments, but understanding that they do not need to be broadcast to be real. Quiet confidence knows the difference between doing for applause and doing for purpose. It chooses purpose every time. Quiet confidence also changes how you walk through setbacks. Those who depend on external validation often crumble when things go wrong because their sense of worth is tied to constant success. But those with quiet confidence understand that failure is not the end. They know their worth is not defined by one mistake, and they trust their ability to rise again. This allows them to endure difficulties without losing composure. They do not need to explain away their failures or seek sympathy. They simply continue, grounded in the knowledge that every setback is preparation for a greater return. The world respects quiet confidence even if it does not always recognize it immediately. In workplaces, the people who speak less but deliver more often hold greater influence than those who talk constantly with little to show. In relationships, the partner who does not need constant attention but provides consistent love creates stability. In leadership, the figure who listens more than they speak often inspires deeper trust. Quiet confidence carries weight precisely because it is rare. In a noisy world, calm presence stands out. One of the greatest gifts of quiet confidence is peace. When you no longer need to prove yourself, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of comparison. You stop measuring your worth against the noise of others and instead measure it against your own growth. You stop chasing recognition and start focusing on results. This peace allows you to focus fully on your vision without the distraction of constant performance. It gives you the space to build, to grow, and to succeed in your own time and way. Quiet confidence is not about shrinking yourself. It is about standing so firmly in your truth that you do not need to inflate it. It is about moving with certainty without demanding recognition. It is about walking in silence but carrying the kind of presence that speaks louder than words. It is about trusting that your path, though unseen now, will reveal itself in time. And it is about knowing that when it does, you will not need to explain, defend, or justify. Your results will be undeniable. As you practice silence, notice how it transforms your confidence. At first, you may feel uncomfortable with holding your plans. You may feel unseen or overlooked. But over time, you will discover that the absence of external validation forces you to cultivate internal validation. You will begin to trust yourself more deeply, to believe in your ability regardless of others' opinions. This is the root of quiet confidence. It is not the absence of fear, but the presence of trust. It is not the denial of challenges, but the certainty that you can face them. It is not the rejection of recognition, but the refusal to depend on it. The strength of quiet confidence lies in its endurance. Words can be forgotten, appearances can fade, but true confidence endures because it is built on truth. When you learn to carry this kind of confidence, you no longer need to rush your journey or broadcast your moves. You can move steadily, silently, and assuredly, knowing that your presence is enough and your progress is inevitable. Quiet confidence is not a performance, but a posture, a way of being that speaks louder than the noisiest announcement. It is the fruit of silence, the reward of discipline, and the foundation of unshakable strength. Chapter 7. The Warrior's Mindset. To move in silence requires a certain mentality, one that sees life not as a place for endless chatter, but as a battleground where every move matters. This is the warrior's mindset. A warrior does not reveal his strategy before the fight begins. He studies the terrain, observes his opponent, sharpens his weapons, and positions himself carefully. He does not announce where he will strike or how he will defend. His silence is not fear, it is discipline. His restraint is not weakness, it is strategy. To live with the warrior's mindset is to understand that discretion is a form of power, that noise is often a liability, and that patience is a weapon more potent than haste. The world often celebrates the loud, the boastful, and the impulsive, but history has shown that the most effective leaders and fighters were often the most measured. The general who revealed his plans too early gave his enemies time to prepare, but the one who kept his moves hidden struck with surprise and precision. The warrior's mindset applies not only to battles on the field, but also to the battles of everyday life. Whether you are building a business, shaping a career, healing from setbacks, or pursuing personal growth, your journey requires the same discipline. Not every step should be broadcast. Not every strategy should be shared. Some things are strongest when they remain within you until the moment of execution. Discipline lies at the core of the warrior's mindset. To move in silence, you must learn to master your impulses. The temptation to share your vision, to prove yourself, or to seek validation is powerful, but a warrior knows that victory is not won through impulse. It is won through patience and planning. Every time you resist the urge to announce your move, you sharpen your discipline. Like a sword being forged, your character is strengthened by the fire of restraint. Discipline does not limit you, it frees you. It frees you from the opinions of others, from the pull of comparison, and from the distractions of unnecessary noise. Patience is another weapon of the warrior. In a world addicted to immediacy, patience has become rare, yet it remains essential for true success. A warrior waits for the right moment to strike. He knows that acting too soon can destroy an opportunity, just as acting too late can let it slip away. Moving in silence cultivates patience because it forces you to trust timing. You learn to accept that your vision may take time to grow, and that revealing it prematurely serves no purpose. Patience allows you to preserve energy, to act when conditions are most favorable, and to endure without breaking when progress feels slow. The warrior's mindset also demands observation. Silence gives you the chance to see what others miss. While others are speaking, you are watching. While others are boasting, you are studying. This attentiveness becomes an advantage. You notice patterns, opportunities, and risks that are invisible to those distracted by their own noise. Observation sharpens strategy. Because you no longer move blindly, you move with knowledge, and knowledge makes your silence even more powerful. The one who observes more and speaks less always carries the upper hand. Confidence, too, is a cornerstone of the warrior's mindset. Not the loud confidence that crumbles when challenged, but the quiet confidence that comes from preparation. A warrior does not need to declare his strength because his discipline speaks for him. Similarly, when you live with the warrior's mindset, you no longer need to justify your path. You trust that your actions will reveal your strength in due time. This confidence is unshakable because it is rooted not in words, but in consistent preparation. Living with the warrior's mindset also means embracing struggle. Silence is not meant to shield you from every challenge, it is meant to prepare you for them. A warrior understands that battles are part of the journey, and he does not run from them. He trains for them. In your own life, silence allows you to train unseen. It gives you space to fail privately, to refine quietly, and to build strength without the pressure of spectators. Then, when challenges appear, you are ready. You are not caught off guard, because you have been preparing in silence all along. The warrior's mindset changes your relationship with opposition. Instead of being discouraged by resistance, you learn to use it as motivation. Silence gives you the strength to endure doubt and criticism without collapsing. It allows you to continue moving forward even when others cannot see your vision. This resilience is what separates those who quit from those who succeed. A warrior does not stop because others cannot understand the mission. He continues because he knows the mission was never meant for everyone to understand. Another critical aspect of the warrior's mindset is secrecy. Secrecy is not deception, it is protection. A warrior does not reveal his strategies to his enemies not because he fears them, but because he understands the value of surprise. In the same way, you do not need to share your every move with those around you. Some will not support you, some will not understand you, and some may even work against you. Silence ensures that by the time your moves are visible, they are already too strong to be undone. To cultivate the warrior's mindset is to live with intentionality. You begin to weigh your words, your actions, and your timing with care. You stop scattering your energy on explanations and instead direct it toward execution. You stop reacting to every opinion and instead anchor yourself in discipline. You stop rushing for recognition and instead wait for results to speak. Over time, this intentionality becomes a way of life. You no longer feel compelled to prove yourself through words because your presence carries the weight of preparation and strength. Ask yourself, where in your life have you been moving without strategy, speaking without thought, or acting without patience? Where have you given away your advantage by revealing too much too soon? Reflect on how different your path could look if you adopted the warrior's mindset. Imagine the strength of your moves if they were guided by discipline, sharpened by observation, fueled by patience, and revealed only when the time was right. Imagine the power of your silence becoming your greatest weapon. The warrior's mindset is not about living in constant conflict, but about living with constant readiness. It is about understanding that life will test you and preparing yourself to meet those tests with strength and strategy. It is about embracing silence, not as emptiness, but as a deliberate choice, a shield that protects your vision and a sword that sharpens your discipline. To live as a warrior is to live with quiet assurance, knowing that your silence is not weakness but wisdom, not hesitation but strategy. And when the time comes to act, your moves will be unstoppable, not because you spoke of them in advance, but because you prepared for them in silence. Chapter 8. Silence and Spirituality. Silence has always carried a sacred quality. Long before our modern age of noise and constant communication, silence was seen as a doorway to wisdom, a pathway to strength, and a language of the spirit. The ancients understood what many have forgotten, that silence is not simply the absence of sound, but the presence of something greater. To embrace silence is to step into a space where clarity can emerge, where the voice of wisdom can be heard, and where the soul can breathe without interference. To move in silence is therefore not only a strategic practice, but a spiritual discipline, one that grounds you in truth and connects you to the deeper currents of life. Every spiritual tradition has honored silence in some form. Monks retreat to monasteries where silence is central to their practice. Mystics wander into deserts and mountains to seek divine connection away from the noise of society. Indigenous elders sit in quiet communion with the earth, listening not with their ears but with their spirits. Even in scripture and sacred texts, silence is often portrayed as the condition in which revelation appears. This is because silence strips away the distractions of the world, allowing a person to hear what cannot be heard in noise, the inner voice, the guiding intuition, the whisper of the divine. When you choose to move in silence, you align yourself with this timeless wisdom. You recognize that your plans and dreams are not merely tasks to accomplish, but seeds of purpose entrusted to you. They are not meant to be tossed carelessly into the noise of the world, but to be nurtured in the quiet space where clarity grows. In silence, you begin to hear yourself more clearly. You distinguish between what is truly yours and what has been imposed on you by others. Many people chase goals that are not even their own, driven by societal expectations or the opinions of family and peers. Silence reveals whether your vision comes from your soul or from borrowed voices. There is also a spiritual protection in silence. Words are energy, and when you speak your vision into the world prematurely, you release that energy where it can be influenced, weakened, or even opposed. Some may send encouragement, but others may send doubt or envy. Even unspoken negativity carries weight, and when your vision is still fragile, it can be affected. Silence shields your dream in its vulnerable stages, keeping it safe until it has grown strong enough to stand in the open. This is not superstition, but awareness. Just as a plant grows best when its roots are hidden beneath the soil, your spiritual growth thrives when your vision is covered in silence. Silence also teaches humility. It reminds you that you are not the center of the universe, that your purpose is part of something larger. When you quiet yourself, you create space for the presence of the divine, for wisdom greater than your own. In noise, the ego is fed. It wants to announce, to display, to be recognized. In silence, the ego is humbled. It must wait, listen, and surrender. This surrender does not weaken you, it strengthens you. It aligns you with something beyond yourself, allowing you to move not only with personal ambition, but with spiritual alignment. The practice of silence deepens your connection to intuition. Intuition is often drowned out by constant noise, both external and internal. But in silence, you learn to trust the subtle nudges, the quiet inner knowing that guides you toward the right steps. Intuition is like a compass, and silence allows you to read it clearly. The more you practice silence, the more sensitive you become to this guidance. Decisions that once felt overwhelming begin to flow with ease because you are no longer trying to hear through the static of outside voices. You begin to move with confidence, not because you have explained yourself to others, but because you have listened deeply within. There is a spiritual stillness that arises when you move in silence. It is not the stillness of inaction, but the stillness of focus. You are no longer scattered by conversations or drained by explanations. You are centered, grounded, and aligned. This stillness is powerful because it becomes the foundation from which all meaningful action flows. In spirituality, stillness has always been seen as the place where transformation begins. Just as a pond reflects the sky only when its waters are calm, your spirit reflects clarity only when it is still. Silence gives you that stillness. When you adopt silence as a spiritual practice, you begin to see it as more than a strategy for success. You see it as a way of living, a way of honoring the sacredness of your path. You learn that not everything must be spoken, not every truth must be shared, and not every move must be revealed. Some things are too precious to be placed in the hands of others prematurely. Silence becomes your way of showing reverence for your vision, treating it not as something to boast about, but as something to be cherished. This perspective also changes how you relate to others. You begin to listen more than you speak. You hear the unspoken emotions behind words, the intentions behind actions, the truths hidden in silence. This makes you wiser, more compassionate, and more discerning. People begin to trust you, not because you talk the most, but because your silence carries weight. You become the kind of person whose presence itself is grounding, because you have learned to carry the peace that silence gives. Ask yourself what role silence has played in your life so far. Have you allowed it to be a refuge, a space of renewal and clarity? Or have you avoided it, filling every moment with noise because silence feels uncomfortable? If silence has felt unsettling, it may be because it confronts you with truths you have tried to avoid. But those truths, once faced, can set you free. Silence is the mirror that shows you who you truly are, beyond the performances, beyond the noise, beyond the expectations. Silence and spirituality are inseparable because both invite you to go deeper. Both require patience, humility, and trust. Both ask you to move beyond appearances and into essence. When you practice silence, you are not merely holding your tongue. You are aligning with a wisdom that transcends the surface of life. You are saying to the world, "My path is sacred, my vision is precious, and I will not expose it carelessly." You are saying to yourself, I trust my purpose enough to protect it, to nurture it, and to reveal it only when the time is right. In a world that glorifies noise, silence becomes your revolution. It becomes your sanctuary, your shield, and your strength. It connects you to yourself, to others, and to the divine. It teaches you to move not with fear but with faith, not with noise but with certainty. And in that silence you discover a spiritual force that no amount of recognition could ever give you. This is the gift of silence and spirituality, the ability to walk your path with wisdom, alignment, and peace, knowing that what is hidden now will one day shine with undeniable power. Chapter 9. The Architect's Blueprint. Every lasting structure begins with a blueprint. Before a building rises into the sky, before a bridge stretches across a river, before a city expands its reach, there are plans carefully drawn in silence. Architects do not rush to announce every line they sketch, nor do they invite crowds to watch as they draft. They work privately, refining and adjusting, knowing that a single miscalculation could compromise the entire foundation. Their work in silence is what makes the structure in the open possible. The same principle applies to life. Your dreams, goals, and visions require a blueprint created away from noise. If you expose your plans before the blueprint is finished, you risk building something unstable, vulnerable to collapse under the weight of scrutiny, distraction, and doubt. Too often people attempt to build without planning. They rush to reveal their intentions without first creating a clear structure for how those intentions will be realized. The result is a half-formed idea, shaky and uncertain, collapsing when tested by time or resistance. Moving in silence gives you the space to be an architect of your life, to design your path with intention before exposing it to the world. Silence protects your blueprint while it is still being drawn, allowing you to adjust, refine, and strengthen it without interference. The blueprint stage is where discipline meets imagination. It is where vision becomes tangible. Without this stage, goals remain vague dreams that quickly dissolve. Many announce their aspirations to others without ever developing a concrete plan, and in doing so they place themselves under pressure they are not ready to face. Once the spotlight is on them, they scramble to deliver something they have not fully designed. But those who move in silence understand that planning is not wasted time, it is the foundation of success. They invest in quiet preparation so when the moment of action arrives, they build with precision. An architect knows that what is hidden beneath the surface matters as much as what is visible above it. Foundations must be strong enough to hold the weight of what will rise. Similarly, your private work must be strong enough to sustain your public results. If you neglect the hidden preparation, your progress will not endure. Silence ensures that you focus on laying this foundation before seeking recognition. It prevents you from being distracted by applause while the structure is still fragile. By the time others see what you have built, the foundation will already be unshakable. Blueprints also require patience. They take time to develop, and they must be checked and rechecked to ensure accuracy. Rushing this process invites mistakes that can be costly later. Life works the same way. When you reveal your plans too quickly, you pressure yourself to move faster than you are prepared to. Silence allows you the patience to develop your path thoroughly. It gives you the freedom to test your ideas, to learn from mistakes privately, and to refine without fear of judgment. What feels like delay is often preparation, and preparation is what separates those who succeed from those who collapse under the weight of their own ambition. Another truth about the architect's blueprint is that it is not for everyone to see. Not every worker on the construction site has access to the full plan. Each person is given what they need to complete their task, but only the architect holds the complete vision. In your life, not everyone deserves access to your entire blueprint. Some may play roles in your journey, but that does not mean they should know every detail. Giving the wrong person too much access to your plan can compromise the entire structure. Silence helps you discern who to trust with parts of your vision and who should remain unaware until the work is complete. The act of creating a blueprint in silence is also a form of respect for yourself and for the dream you carry. It says that your vision is too valuable to be treated casually. It says that you are willing to invest time and effort into shaping it properly before exposing it to the world. This respect creates confidence. When you know you have planned carefully, you no longer feel the need to defend yourself against critics. Your work speaks for itself, and your silence ensures that when you reveal it, it is strong enough to stand on its own. Silence also creates clarity in the blueprint stage. When you are not distracted by the noise of others' opinions, you can hear your own thoughts more clearly. You can distinguish between what is essential and what is unnecessary. You can shape your vision in alignment with your values rather than bending it to satisfy outside expectations. Clarity is often lost when too many voices are allowed into the planning process. Silence protects that clarity, ensuring that the blueprint reflects your true intentions rather than the fragmented desires of others. Think of the projects you have seen abandoned in your own life or in the lives of those around you. How many of them failed not because the idea lacked potential, but because the plan was incomplete? How many dreams fell apart under pressure because they were announced before they were ready? These are lessons in the importance of silence. They remind you that preparation must precede exposure, that the blueprint must be complete before the building begins. Every time you choose silence, you give yourself the gift of this preparation. Moving in silence does not mean you never act. It means you act with intention, grounded in a plan that has been developed carefully. It means you stop scattering your energy in constant explanations and instead direct it toward shaping something strong and lasting. It means you respect your vision enough to protect it until it is ready. Like an architect, you understand that what is unseen now will one day become undeniable. The blueprint may be hidden, but it carries the power of what is to come. The lesson of the architect blueprint is clear. Silence is the space where plans are shaped, foundations are laid, and clarity is gained. It is the stage where you refine your vision without pressure, where you prepare for execution without interference. It is the discipline of holding back until your plan is strong enough to withstand the weight of exposure. When you embrace this discipline, you stop rushing to announce your every move and start building with quiet precision. And when the time comes to reveal what you have built, it will stand as proof that silence was never emptiness but preparation, never weakness but wisdom. Chapter 10. Results over announcements. In a world obsessed with visibility, there is an endless temptation to announce every intention before it takes form. People believe that by telling others what they are going to do, they prove their ambition and seriousness. But ambition is not proven through words, it is revealed through results. The measure of a person's progress is not in how loudly they speak of their dreams, but in how steadily they work toward them until those dreams are undeniable. Results over announcements is not simply a principle of success. It is a mindset that honors silence, discipline, and execution above all else. The problem with announcements is that they create an illusion of progress. The moment you declare your intention to write a book, start a business, or change your life, you feel as though you have already accomplished something. The applause or recognition that follows gives you a false sense of achievement, but the hard work still lies ahead. Many lose momentum after the announcement because the satisfaction of being acknowledged drains the very energy that should have fueled their efforts. Announcements can satisfy the ego, but they rarely sustain the vision. Results, on the other hand, require discipline, patience, and consistency, qualities that silence cultivates. Results do not need to be explained, they speak for themselves. When you build something, achieve something, or transform something, your actions carry weight that words never could. People respect results because results are undeniable. They cannot be argued with, dismissed, or ignored. Announcements, however, are fragile. They invite doubt, criticism, and premature judgment. They expose your vision before it has had time to mature. Results protect you from this vulnerability because by the time others see your progress, it is already real. It is no longer an idea that can be questioned, but a fact that must be acknowledged. Living by results over announcements also changes your relationship with time. Announcements are often made to speed up validation, to create instant recognition. Results, however, take time to develop. They force you to embrace the process, to remain patient and focused even when no one else is watching. This patience strengthens your character and deepens your confidence. You no longer measure your worth by how quickly others notice you, but by how consistently you move toward your goals. Over time, this shift creates a lasting legacy rather than fleeting attention. There is a psychological strength that comes from allowing your results to speak. You no longer feel the need to argue with doubters or defend yourself against skeptics. Silence gives you the freedom to conserve your energy for execution, and execution eventually silences the noise around you. The one who talks constantly must continue talking to prove themselves, but the one who produces results has nothing to prove. Their work stands as testimony. Their silence becomes powerful because it is backed by evidence. Consider the difference between those who constantly speak of what they are going to do and those who quietly build. The talkers often attract attention at first, but as time passes and results fail to appear, their credibility fades. The builders may be overlooked initially, but when their results emerge, they command respect that no announcement could ever secure. The respect of results is deeper because it is based on substance rather than performance. It lasts, while the applause of empty announcements quickly fades. Moving in silence ensures that when you do reveal your progress, it carries impact. It prevents you from exposing your vision prematurely when it is still fragile and easily derailed. It allows you to focus on execution without the burden of constant explanation. And it builds credibility because people learn that when you do speak, you have something real to show. Over time, this consistency establishes you as someone whose actions matter more than their words, someone whose silence is not emptiness, but preparation. This principle does not mean you must hide everything forever. There will be moments when sharing your results is necessary, when you launch a project, publish your work, or step into a new role. But the key is that the sharing comes after the building, not before. You are not announcing what you plan to do, you are revealing what you have already done. This shift changes how others perceive you and how you perceive yourself. You no longer seek validation for intentions, you carry confidence in results. Results over announcements is also a protection against envy and sabotage. When you speak too soon, you invite interference. People may discourage you, compete with you, or even attempt to undermine you. But when you reveal results, it is too late for interference. The work is already complete, the progress already secured. Others may envy, but they cannot undo what has already been built. Silence gives you this protection, allowing you to move freely without unnecessary resistance. Think of your own life and how many announcements you have made without following through. Perhaps you declared a goal only to abandon it later, or you shared an intention that never became reality. Each time this happens, your credibility suffers, not only with others but with yourself. You begin to doubt your own words because you have created a pattern of unfulfilled promises. Silence breaks this cycle. It allows you to rebuild trust with yourself by committing to execution before expression. When you follow through silently, you strengthen your belief in your own discipline, and when you reveal results, you restore your credibility. The discipline of prioritizing results over announcements demands patience, humility, and self-control. It requires you to resist the ego's craving for recognition and instead embrace the deeper satisfaction of achievement. It teaches you that real progress does not need to be broadcast in its infancy. It only needs to be nurtured until it matures, and when it does, the results will carry a power that no announcement could match. To live this way is to choose depth over display, substance over noise, and execution over performance. It is to say, "My work will speak for me." It is to embrace silence as the space where true progress happens. In the end, results always outlast announcements. Words fade, attention shifts, but what you build remains. When you focus on results, you create something that endures. And when you move in silence, you ensure that your results, when revealed, are undeniable. Chapter 11. The Circle of Trust. No matter how disciplined you are, no matter how much you value silence, there will come times when you need to share parts of your journey with others. Humans are not meant to walk alone in every season. The strength of silence is not in complete isolation, but in discernment. Choosing wisely who deserves access to your inner world and who does not. This is where the concept of the circle of trust becomes essential. Your vision may be sacred, but there will be moments when it requires support, encouragement, or collaboration. The key is learning to build a circle small enough to protect your dream, yet strong enough to sustain you. Most people make the mistake of granting too much access to too many voices. They confuse availability with loyalty and assume that because someone is close in proximity, they must also be safe in intention. This assumption is dangerous. Not everyone around you has the capacity to hold your vision with care. Some will mishandle it out of ignorance, others out of envy, and some simply because they lack the maturity to support what they cannot yet understand. To protect your progress, you must learn to filter carefully who belongs inside your circle and who must remain outside. Trust should never be given lightly. It is earned through consistency, integrity, and proven loyalty. People reveal who they are over time, not through what they say, but through how they act. Pay attention to how someone responds to your smaller vulnerabilities before you entrust them with your larger dreams. Do they listen without judgment? Do they encourage without competition? Do they hold what you share in confidence, or do they spread it to others? These questions are not about paranoia, but about discernment. If someone cannot protect a small piece of your heart, they will not protect a larger piece of your vision. Your circle of trust should be small. A handful of voices is enough, sometimes even fewer. It is not about quantity, but about quality. Too many people in your circle create confusion, because too many perspectives dilute clarity. Every person adds their own filter, their own bias, their own fears. If you invite too many voices, you may lose sight of your own. A small circle ensures that the voices you do allow are aligned with your purpose and capable of strengthening rather than weakening you. There is also wisdom in diversifying the roles within your circle. Not every person needs to serve the same function. One may encourage you emotionally, another may challenge you intellectually, and another may provide practical support. Together they form a balance, covering different aspects of your journey without overwhelming you. But even within this diversity, the foundation must be the same: loyalty, respect, and confidentiality. Without these, the circle is not a circle of trust, but a revolving door of opinions. The greatest danger of choosing the wrong circle is that it can drain your energy and compromise your focus. When you open your vision to someone who responds with doubt, negativity, or indifference, it plants seeds in your spirit that you may not even notice at first. Over time, those seeds grow into hesitation and self-sabotage. By contrast, the right circle speaks life into you. They remind you of your strength when you feel weak. They hold you accountable when you are tempted to quit, and they believe in you even when progress is unseen. This is why silence is powerful. It ensures that only the voices worthy of influence are allowed close enough to speak into your journey. Another element of the circle of trust is reciprocity. Trust should not be one-sided. Just as you seek people who can hold your vision with care, you must also be willing to hold theirs. Mutual trust builds deeper bonds, creating relationships that can withstand time and challenge. When you are trustworthy yourself, you attract trustworthy people. When you gossip, betray, or mishandle the secrets of others, you also invite that energy back into your own circle. Protecting your circle begins with embodying the same loyalty you expect. Silence does not mean you will never need others, but it does mean you must choose carefully when to speak and to whom. The circle of trust is where silence can safely break. It is the space where you can reveal your fears without judgment, your struggles without ridicule, and your hopes without envy. Outside of this circle, silence remains your shield. Inside of it, openness becomes your strength. The ability to navigate between these two spaces, guarding your vision from the world while sharing it with the few who are worthy, is what gives you balance. There will be times when people you trusted reveal themselves to be unworthy. This is painful but necessary. Betrayal is often the teacher that refines your discernment. It shows you where you misjudged and teaches you to be more cautious moving forward. Do not let betrayal harden you into isolation, but let it sharpen you into wisdom. Each disappointment can serve as a reminder that your vision is too valuable to place carelessly in anyone's hands. The circle of trust must be earned, and once earned, it must be protected with vigilance. As you reflect on your own life, consider who is currently inside your circle. Do they strengthen your vision or weaken it? Do they protect your confidence or drain it? Do they celebrate your growth or compete with it? Be honest with yourself. If someone does not serve your growth with sincerity and loyalty, they do not belong in that inner space. This does not mean you must cut them out of your life entirely, but it does mean you must adjust the level of access they have to your vision. Silence becomes your boundary, creating distance without bitterness. The circle of trust is not only about others, it is also about yourself. At the core, you must be able to trust your own judgment, your own discipline, and your own resilience. Without self-trust, even the most supportive circle cannot sustain you. Silence strengthens this self-trust by teaching you to rely less on external validation and more on internal conviction. When you can trust yourself, you no longer feel desperate to share your plans widely. You can move quietly, supported by your own confidence, and reinforced by a small circle that truly believes in you. To live this way is to recognize that your vision is sacred and deserves protection. It is to understand that not everyone is meant to walk closely with you, and that is not rejection but reality. It is to value quality over quantity, substance over appearances, loyalty over convenience. Silence guards your vision, and the circle of trust nurtures it. Together they create an environment where your progress can flourish, undisturbed by noise and strengthened by genuine support. In the end, the circle of trust is not about secrecy but about wisdom. It is about knowing who to invite into your inner world and who to keep at a distance. It is about preserving the integrity of your vision by surrounding yourself only with those who honor it. And it is about remembering that silence is not isolation but protection, a way of ensuring that your dream is nurtured in the right soil. When your circle is strong, you move with greater confidence, greater clarity, and greater peace. And when your results finally emerge, they will stand not only as a testament to your discipline, but also as a reflection of the strength of the circle that helped sustain you. Chapter 12. Stillness breeds clarity. The modern world is obsessed with speed, with constant motion, with the idea that if you are not moving loudly and visibly, then you are falling behind. Yet the truth is that clarity is not born in chaos, but in stillness. The mind, like water, only reflects clearly when it is calm. When you live in noise, your thoughts are scattered, fragmented, and reactive. But when you embrace silence and allow yourself to dwell in stillness, the fog begins to lift. You begin to see your life, your choices, and your vision with greater precision. This is the hidden gift of moving in silence. It grants you the clarity that constant chatter steals. Stillness is difficult for many because it confronts them with themselves. When the noise fades, you are left with your own thoughts, and not everyone is comfortable with that. This is why people fill their lives with endless distractions, surrounding themselves with entertainment, conversations, and announcements. Silence feels unsettling because it reveals what is hidden: doubts, fears, insecurities, and unanswered questions. Yet it is only by facing these truths that you can find clarity. Stillness is not an escape but a mirror. It shows you what you need to confront, and in confronting it, you gain the insight to move forward. The discipline of moving in silence teaches you to value this stillness. Instead of rushing to declare your next step, you pause long enough to ask if it is truly aligned with your purpose. Instead of seeking validation from others, you sit with yourself until you discover whether the desire comes from within or from outside pressures. This kind of reflection cannot happen in noise. It requires space, patience, and the courage to sit with silence long enough for clarity to emerge. What feels uncomfortable at first eventually becomes empowering, because the answers you find in stillness are more enduring than the opinions you gather in noise. Clarity is not just about direction, but about strength. When you know why you are doing something, you gain the resilience to keep going even when it gets hard. Many people abandon their goals not because the goal was impossible, but because they lacked clarity about why it mattered. They borrowed someone else's dream, pursued a path to impress others, or made decisions based on temporary emotions. When challenges appeared, their motivation crumbled because it was never rooted in clarity. Silence gives you the space to ask deeper questions. Why does this matter to me? What am I willing to sacrifice for it? What will it give me? And what might it cost me? These questions strengthen your commitment, ensuring that when you do move, you move with conviction. Stillness also breeds focus. When your mind is scattered by noise, you try to pursue too many things at once. You chase distractions disguised as opportunities. But in silence, your focus sharpens. You see what is essential and what is unnecessary. You stop scattering your energy in every direction and begin to channel it toward what matters most. This is why silence is not a pause in progress, but an accelerator of it. By clarifying your focus, you move more efficiently, accomplishing in months what others waste years attempting. There is a spiritual dimension to clarity as well. In stillness, you begin to sense guidance that does not come from logic alone. Call it intuition, inner wisdom, or divine direction. It becomes clearer when the noise subsides. Many of the most important decisions in life cannot be made by reason alone. They require a deeper knowing, a sense of alignment that transcends logic. This knowing rarely shouts, it whispers. And only those who cultivate stillness can hear it. Silence is therefore not emptiness, but connection. A way of aligning yourself with wisdom greater than your own. Stillness also transforms how you relate to others. When you are calm and clear, you are less reactive. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself in every conversation or to defend yourself against every critic. You can listen more deeply, respond more thoughtfully, and discern more accurately. Clarity makes you harder to manipulate because you know who you are and what you stand for. It makes you less dependent on external validation because you already carry internal assurance. It makes you more peaceful because you no longer live in constant reaction to the noise of others. In practical terms, stillness can be cultivated through intentional silence. This may mean creating quiet time each day away from distractions, or resisting the urge to announce your plans prematurely. It may mean stepping back from environments that constantly demand performance and giving yourself the space to reflect. It may mean choosing to listen more than you speak, allowing others to reveal themselves while you preserve your own clarity. These practices may feel small, but over time they sharpen your vision and strengthen your resolve. The greatest benefit of stillness is that it reveals truth. It strips away illusions and exposes what is real. In stillness, you realize which relationships are genuine and which are superficial. You recognize which goals are rooted in purpose and which are fueled by ego. You see which habits sustain you and which are destroying you. Noise can hide these truths for a while, but it cannot erase them. Sooner or later, they surface. Silence simply gives you the opportunity to face them before they force themselves upon you. Ask yourself how much clarity you truly have about your current path. Are you moving with purpose, or are you reacting to noise? Are you building something that matters, or are you simply chasing validation? Are you aligned with your own vision, or are you borrowing dreams from others? These questions may be uncomfortable, but they are necessary. Without clarity, you will always be vulnerable to distraction. With clarity, you become unstoppable because you know exactly where you are going and why. Stillness breeds clarity, and clarity breeds power. The more you practice silence, the more focused, resilient, and purposeful you become. You stop scattering your energy and start directing it. You stop chasing applause and start pursuing results. You stop doubting yourself every time someone questions you, because you have already found your answers in silence. This is the strength that comes from clarity, the ability to walk your path with confidence, even when the world cannot yet see where it leads. In the end, silence is not a retreat from life, but an entry into it. It allows you to engage more fully, more wisely, and more effectively. It clears the fog, sharpens your vision, and grounds you in truth. Stillness is not wasted time, it is the foundation of progress. And when you learn to embrace it, you discover that clarity is not something you must chase in the noise of the world. It is something you cultivate in the silence of your own soul. Chapter 13. Resilience in the Shadows. Resilience is not built in the spotlight, it is forged in the shadows, in the quiet places where no one is watching, applauding, or even aware of your struggle. When you move in silence, you give yourself permission to endure without the constant need for validation. You learn to push through difficulty not because someone is cheering you on, but because you have chosen to remain committed regardless of recognition. This is the heart of resilience, an unshakable determination that does not depend on visibility. The shadows are not a punishment, but a training ground, a place where strength is cultivated, away from the noise of the world. Too many people equate progress with attention. They believe that if their efforts are not being seen, they are meaningless. But the truth is that some of your most important growth will take place in silence, where no one notices. It is in those unseen moments that your character is tested, your discipline refined, and your faith strengthened. When you resist the urge to announce every step, you give yourself the freedom to fail quietly, to recover without judgment, and to continue without the pressure of an audience. Each time you rise in the shadows, you build resilience that will sustain you when the light finally shines on your results. Resilience requires endurance. It is the ability to keep going when progress feels slow, when obstacles mount, and when the temptation to quit becomes overwhelming. Silence makes this endurance possible because it shields you from the constant comparisons and expectations that can drain your willpower. In the shadows, you are free from the pressure to keep up appearances. You can focus on the process rather than the performance. You can fall, adjust, and rise again without worrying about how it looks to others. This freedom is what allows resilience to grow because it keeps your focus on the goal rather than the audience. The shadows also strip away false motivations. When no one is watching, you discover whether you truly desire the goal or whether you are only chasing applause. If your motivation dies in silence, it was never strong enough to begin with. But if you continue to work when no one notices, your motivation becomes purified. It is no longer about impressing others, but about fulfilling your own vision. This shift creates resilience because it roots your determination in something deeper than recognition. It roots it in purpose, and purpose is stronger than applause. Resilience in the shadows also builds humility. When you endure quietly, you stop expecting the world to validate every effort. You accept that progress is not always visible and that recognition is not always immediate. This humility prevents you from becoming bitter when others overlook your efforts, because you understand that their recognition is not the measure of your worth. You continue because the journey itself matters, because the work is meaningful, and because you trust that the results will speak when the time is right. Humility and resilience go hand in hand because both require letting go of ego. There will be seasons when the shadows feel endless, when it seems as though your effort is unseen and your sacrifices are unappreciated. These are the hardest seasons, but they are also the most transformative. The silence of these times forces you to draw strength from within, to rely on discipline when motivation fades, and to hold on to faith when results are not yet visible. The longer you endure, the stronger you become, Resilience is not born from comfort but from persistence through discomfort. The shadows are where this persistence takes root. Silence also protects your resilience by limiting external interference. When you keep your struggles private, you prevent others from projecting their doubts, fears, or negativity onto you. External voices can weaken resilience if you allow them too much influence, but in the shadows, you are able to maintain focus on your own process, uninterrupted by the distractions of criticism or comparison. You discover that resilience is not about proving others wrong, but about proving yourself right. Not about silencing doubters with words, but with results. Another truth about resilience is that it is cumulative. Every time you endure a challenge in silence, you add to your inner strength. Each setback survived becomes a foundation for future endurance. Over time, you begin to trust yourself more deeply because you have seen yourself rise again and again. This trust is the essence of resilience. It is not the belief that you will never fall, but the certainty that no matter how many times you do, you will rise. The shadows give you countless opportunities to practice this, to fail quietly and to recover quietly until resilience becomes second nature. Think of the seasons in your life when you felt invisible, when it seemed as though your work went unnoticed and your sacrifices unrecognized. At the time, those seasons may have felt discouraging, but looking back, they were the times when you grew the most. They taught you perseverance, discipline, and faith in yourself. They showed you that you are stronger than you realized. This is the hidden gift of the shadows. They strip away illusions and leave behind resilience. You may not appreciate the silence while you are in it, but when you emerge, you carry strength that cannot be taken from you. Resilience in the shadows also prepares you for the weight of visibility. If you gain recognition too quickly without having built resilience, the pressure can crush you. Many people collapse under the weight of success because they never develop the endurance to sustain it. The shadows protect you from this by preparing you in advance. They teach you to endure pressure without validation, so when validation finally comes, you are not dependent on it. You are already grounded, already strong, already capable of continuing regardless of applause. In the end, resilience in the shadows is about trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the process, and trust in the timing of your journey. It is about believing that the work you do unseen is just as valuable as what the world eventually sees. It is about knowing that silence is not absence but preparation, not weakness but strength. The shadows are not your enemy, they are your ally. They shape you, refine you, and prepare you for the weight of what is to come. When you embrace resilience in the shadows, you stop fearing obscurity. You no longer see silence as a punishment but as a gift. You recognize that the strength you are building now, away from the eyes of others, will sustain you when the spotlight finally arrives. And when it does, you will not be shaken, because your resilience will not depend on applause. It will depend on the unshakable truth you discovered in silence, that you can endure, that you can rise, and that you can thrive, even in the darkest of places. Chapter 14. Arrival without warning. There is a unique kind of power in appearing fully formed, in arriving without warning after a long season of silence. The world becomes accustomed to noise and constant updates, so when someone chooses restraint, the impact of their emergence is magnified. Most people announce every intention, every step, and every small achievement. They dilute the effect of their final arrival by scattering attention along the way. But when you move quietly, preparing in the shadows, your arrival becomes unforgettable. You do not need to ask for recognition because the results demand it. You do not need to argue with doubters because the outcome silences them. Arrival without warning is the reward of patience, discipline, and faith in silence. When you arrive unexpectedly, people are often caught off guard. They may have doubted you, forgotten you, or dismissed your potential. In their eyes, you were silent, and silence is often mistaken for stagnation. But while they were assuming you had stopped, you were building. While they thought you were finished, you were refining. While they were busy speaking, you were executing. The shock of your emergence is powerful because it breaks their assumption. It teaches them that silence is not inactivity, and it reminds them that true progress does not need constant display. The effect of arriving without warning is not about proving others wrong, but about proving yourself right. It is not about revenge or pride, but about living in alignment with your discipline. You stayed true to your path even when unseen. You honored your vision even when unrecognized. You trusted the process long enough for results to appear, and now the unveiling is a natural consequence of that trust. The beauty of this kind of arrival is that it does not require explanation. You do not need to justify your silence or recount your struggles. The outcome itself tells the story. There is also a psychological advantage to arriving without warning. When people do not see your progress step by step, they cannot interfere with it. They cannot discourage you at every stage, nor can they sabotage what they do not know exists. By the time they become aware of your work, it is already too far along to be stopped. This creates a sense of inevitability about your success. What once was doubted now becomes undeniable, not because you persuaded anyone with words, but because you showed them with results. Arrival without warning also preserves your energy. Every explanation you do not give, every announcement you resist, is energy saved for execution. Instead of wasting time defending your vision, you invested in building your vision. Over months or years, that energy compounds, leading to progress that others cannot match. When you finally reveal what you have been working on, it carries the weight of all that preserved energy. It is not a small step, but a leap. Not a hint of potential, but a demonstration of fulfillment. Think of how nature works. Flowers do not announce their blooming in advance. The tree does not declare that it is about to bear fruit. They simply arrive in their season, fully formed, undeniable in their beauty and strength. In the same way, your silence prepares you for a season of arrival that needs no announcement. When the time is right, your work will speak louder than your words ever could. This is not a metaphor alone, but a principle of life. What is prepared in silence eventually emerges in strength. Arriving without warning also creates a lasting impression. People remember sudden, powerful appearances more than they remember gradual noise. When you reveal something only after it is complete, you create an element of surprise that makes it memorable. This is why so many great leaders, creators, and innovators throughout history worked quietly until the moment their ideas were ready to be revealed. Their silence did not make them invisible, it made their emergence unforgettable. Yet arrival without warning is not only about the world's reaction. It is about your own growth. When you refrain from announcing every move, you give yourself the freedom to evolve privately. You can make mistakes, adjust, and refine without fear of judgment. By the time you arrive, you are not only presenting results, but also a version of yourself that has been shaped by the process. You are stronger, wiser, and more capable than you would have been if you had sought constant validation along the way. Silence has prepared you not only for the arrival, but for the life that comes after it. It is important to recognize that this kind of arrival does not happen overnight. It is the product of consistent effort in the unseen. It requires patience to keep working when no one notices, resilience to keep believing when nothing seems to change, and faith to keep moving even when progress is invisible. But when the moment of unveiling finally comes, the power of it justifies the wait. The season of obscurity will feel worth it because the arrival carries weight that noise could never have given it. Ask yourself what it would look like to arrive without warning in your own life. What project, dream, or transformation could you cultivate in silence until it is undeniable? What distractions would you need to eliminate? What announcements would you need to resist to make that possible? Imagine the strength of presenting something complete rather than something in progress. Imagine the freedom of not having to explain every step along the way. Imagine the power of letting your work speak entirely for itself. Arrival without warning is not about isolation, but about strategy. It is about understanding that noise diminishes impact while silence magnifies it. It is about valuing patience over performance, depth over display, and results over recognition. It is about trusting that your season of unveiling will come, and when it does, it will carry more force because it was nurtured in silence. In the end, your arrival will be undeniable, not because you told the world it was coming, but because you prepared for it in silence. You will not need to ask for attention, because your results will command it. You will not need to argue with doubters, because your success will silence them. You will not need to demand respect, because your work will earn it. That is the power of arriving without warning. It is not a performance, but a revelation, not a declaration, but a demonstration. And it all begins with the discipline to remain silent until the time is right. Chapter 15. Living as the Silent Force. To live as the silent force is to embody everything this journey has taught you. It is not simply about keeping secrets or refusing to speak. It is about cultivating a way of life where your strength no longer depends on noise. You move with intention, guided by clarity, grounded in discipline, and sustained by resilience. You have learned that silence is not emptiness but power, not absence but presence, not weakness but wisdom. Now the challenge is to integrate this understanding into the fabric of your daily existence so that you no longer struggle between silence and noise, but live naturally as a person whose results, presence, and energy speak louder than words ever could. The silent force is not invisible. On the contrary, it is deeply felt. It is the kind of presence that draws attention without demanding it. People sense it when you enter a room. The calm assurance, the quiet confidence, the undeniable authority of someone who does not need to prove themselves. This presence is not created overnight. It is the product of countless choices to hold back when others rushed forward, to build when others announced, to prepare when others performed. It is the cumulative weight of discipline, patience, and strategy. When you live as the silent force, your life itself becomes testimony. You no longer need to persuade anyone with speeches. Your very existence becomes the message. Living as the silent force requires consistency. It is easy to move in silence for a short season, to withhold for a time and then slip back into old habits of oversharing. But to truly embody this way of life, you must embrace it as a long-term practice. This does not mean you never speak of your goals or never share your achievements. It means that you speak with intention, reveal with timing, and never allow noise to replace execution. Your silence is not rigid but purposeful. It flexes when needed, but it always serves your growth. Over time, it becomes second nature. You no longer feel pressured to announce your next move because you have grown comfortable with the power of waiting. The silent force also understands that not every battle requires participation. Noise constantly invites reaction, arguments, debates, comparisons, and validations, but silence gives you the freedom to walk away, to conserve energy for what truly matters. Living as the silent force means refusing to waste yourself on distractions. You no longer chase every opportunity, respond to every critic, or compete in every race. You choose carefully, move deliberately, and focus entirely on the path that aligns with your vision. This restraint is what gives your actions such impact. While others scatter their energy in noise, you channel yours into results. Another quality of the silent force is resilience. You have endured in the shadows, learned to rise without applause, and discovered that strength grows in silence. This resilience carries you forward even when challenges arise. You do not crumble when recognition is withheld because you no longer depend on it. You do not collapse when resistance appears because you have already trained for hardship in private. You do not quit when the journey feels long because you have learned that silence itself sustains endurance. Your resilience becomes a quiet power, steady and unshakable, and it makes you unstoppable in a world addicted to noise. To live as the silent force is also to carry peace. You no longer live in constant reaction to what others think, say, or expect. You have found clarity in stillness, and that clarity shields you from confusion. You no longer chase applause because you have found satisfaction in results. You no longer fear being overlooked because you have discovered the strength of obscurity. This peace radiates outward, and others feel it in your presence. It is not the peace of passivity, but the peace of someone who knows exactly who they are and where they are going. There is also a spiritual dimension to living as the silent force. Silence has connected you to your intuition, your inner wisdom, and perhaps even the divine. You have learned to listen to the whispers that noise drowns out, and those whispers now guide you. You move with alignment rather than impulse, with purpose rather than performance. This alignment makes your life more than a pursuit of goals. It makes it a fulfillment of calling. You are no longer merely surviving or achieving, but embodying the deeper truth of who you are meant to be. Living this way does not mean you will never speak or share. It means you have mastered the art of balance. You reveal only when it strengthens your path, and you remain silent when it protects your path. You speak when your words can bring value, but you never waste them for validation. You share your results when the time is right, but you do not dilute their impact by scattering them prematurely. Your silence and your speech are both powerful because both are intentional. Ask yourself what it would look like to live fully as the silent force. How would your choices change if you no longer felt pressured to prove yourself? How much energy would you save if you stopped scattering it in endless explanations? How much more progress would you make if you directed that energy into action instead? And how much peace would you feel if you trusted your vision enough to protect it in silence? These questions are not hypothetical. They are practical invitations to transform how you live. To embody the silent force is to embrace a new identity. You are no longer a person who talks about what they will do. You are a person who does it. You are no longer a person who depends on applause. You are a person who moves with or without it. You are no longer a person swayed by noise. You are a person grounded in clarity, discipline, and resilience. This is the power of living as the silent force. You stop needing the world to recognize you because your life itself becomes undeniable. In the end, silence was never about hiding, but about building. It was never about withholding, but about strengthening. It was never about isolation, but about protection. To live as the silent force is to carry this wisdom with you into every season of life. It is to walk with calm assurance, to act with deliberate strength, and to arrive with undeniable results. It is to let your presence speak louder than your announcements, your discipline shine brighter than your words, and your resilience endure longer than the noise of others. When you live this way, you discover that silence was never a limitation. It was always the foundation of your power.